The phone call came at 2 in the morning. I was already awake. Insomnia had become my companion in those difficult months, staring at the ceiling when my cell phone lit up the darkness. My daughter's name flashed on the screen, and my heart immediately started racing. Nothing good ever comes from a call at 2 a.m. Mom! Her voice was shattered, broken into pieces I didn't recognize. Mom, I went to the police. I finally did it. I told them everything, showed them the messages, the bruises, everything. She was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. But they believed him instead. They believed him, Mom. They said I was being dramatic. They said there wasn't enough evidence. They told me to go home and work it out with my husband. My blood turned to ice. My daughter, my brilliant, strong, beautiful daughter, had finally found the courage to report what her husband had been doing to her. And the system that was supposed to protect her had sent her back into the hands of her abuser. Before I tell you what happened next, and I promise you this story goes places you won't expect, stay with me until the end. Because what I discovered about my son-in-law, what the police refused to see, and what I did to protect my daughter will restore your faith that justice can prevail, even when the system fails us. My name is Margaret Chen. I'm 56 years old, and I raised my daughter Lily alone from the time she was 8. Her father, my ex-husband, decided one day that family life wasn't for him anymore, that the grass was greener somewhere else, and he walked out without looking back. The divorce was quick, his involvement in Lily's life even quicker to disappear. So it was just us. Me and my little girl against the world. I worked as a nurse at County General, rotating between day and night shifts, doing whatever it took to keep our modest 2-bedroom apartment and put food on the table. Money was always tight. There were months I ate ramen for dinner so Lily could have proper meals. Times I wore shoes with holes in them so she could have new ones for school. But I never let her see me struggle. I wanted her to feel secure, to know that even though her father had left, she was loved and safe and valued. Lily was exceptional, not just because she was my daughter but genuinely, objectively remarkable. She excelled in school without me having to push her. She read books meant for kids 3 grades ahead. She asked questions that made her teachers pause and think. She had this curious, hungry mind that wanted to understand everything about the world. But more than that, she was kind. She befriended the lonely kids at school, stood up to bullies, volunteered at the animal shelter on weekends. She had this enormous capacity for empathy, for seeing people who were hurting and wanting to help them. Mom, why are some people mean? She asked me once when she was 10, after a boy at school had mocked another kid for wearing hand-me-down clothes. Because they're hurting inside, I told her. Hurt people hurt people. That's why it's important to be kind, even when it's hard. She took that lesson to heart. Maybe too much. Lily got a full scholarship to State University, majored in social work. She wanted to help people, to make a difference. I was so proud I thought my heart would burst. My daughter, the first person in our family to go to college, was going to change the world. She met Marcus during her junior year. He was in her sociology class, charming and attentive in that way that made her feel special. He'd wait for her after class, carry her books, bring her coffee. He came from a wealthy family. His father owned a chain of car dealerships. His mother was on the board of several charities. They lived in the kind of house I'd only seen in magazines. When Lily brought him home to meet me for the first time, I wanted to like him. I really did. She was glowing with happiness, and I hadn't seen that kind of joy in her eyes since before her father left. Mom, this is Marcus, she said, her hand in his, her smile bright enough to light up the room. He was handsome in a polished way. Expensive haircut, designer clothes that looked casual but probably cost more than my monthly rent. He shook my hand firmly, called me Mrs. Chun even though I asked him to call me Margaret, complimented our apartment even though it was clearly nothing compared to what he was used to. Lily talks about you all the time, he said, flashing that perfect smile. She says you're her hero. I wanted to believe him. but something felt off. Maybe it was the way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Maybe it was how he interrupted Lily when she was talking, subtle enough that she didn't notice but glaring to me. Maybe it was mother's intuition, that sixth sense that tells you when something isn't right with your child. "He seems nice," I told Lily after he left. "But," she pressed, reading my hesitation. "No but. If you're happy, I'm happy." I should have trusted my instincts. I should have said more. But Lily was 20 years old, an adult making her own choices, and I didn't want to be the overprotective mother who couldn't let go. They dated for 2 years. During that time, I watched small changes in my daughter. She stopped mentioning her friends as much. She started dressing differently, more conservative, more covered up. She'd check her phone constantly, and I'd see anxiety flash across her face when Marcus called. "Everything okay?" I'd ask. "Yeah, Mom. Everything's fine. Marcus just likes to know where I am, that's all. It's sweet, he cares." It wasn't sweet, but I didn't know how to explain that to her without sounding like I was judging her relationship, her choices. They got engaged right after Lily graduated. Marcus proposed at a fancy restaurant in front of his entire family. Lily called me crying, happy tears, she said, and told me all about it. The ring was enormous, probably cost more than I made in 6 months. "Mom, I want you to help me plan the wedding," she said. "You and me, like we've always done everything." But that's not what happened. Marcus's mother, Patricia, took over. She had opinions about everything: the venue, the flowers, the dress, the guest list. And Marcus backed her up on every decision, gently steering Lily toward what his family wanted. "It's fine, Mom," Lily kept saying when I expressed concern. "They're just trying to help. They have more experience with these kinds of events." The wedding was beautiful and impersonal, a showcase for the Brooks family, rather than a celebration of Lily and Marcus's love. I sat in the front row watching my daughter marry this man, and felt a cold dread settle in my stomach. But I smiled. I gave a toast. I danced with Lily and told her I was happy for her. Because what else could I do? After the wedding, the changes in Lily accelerated. She'd always called me 3 or 4 times a week. We were close, best friends as much as mother and daughter. But the calls became less frequent. Once a week, then once every 2 weeks. And when we did talk, she seemed distracted, careful about what she said. "How's married life?" I'd ask. "Good. Great. Marcus is wonderful." But her voice had lost something. That spark, that brightness that had always been Lily's defining characteristic. It was dimming. I tried to visit, but there was always a reason why it wasn't a good time. Marcus was busy with work. They had plans with his family. The house was being renovated. There was always something. 6 months into the marriage, Lily stopped by my apartment unannounced. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I'd just gotten home from a shift. She was wearing sunglasses even though it was cloudy, and a long-sleeved shirt despite the heat. "Lily, what a nice surprise," I said, pulling her into a hug. She flinched slightly. Come in. Let me make tea." We sat at my kitchen table, the same one where she'd done her homework as a child, where we'd had countless conversations about life and dreams and everything in between. "Mom," she started, then stopped. Her hands were wrapped around the tea mug, but she wasn't drinking. "What is it, honey?" I missed you. I wanted to see you. I'm glad you're here." "I've missed you too." I reached across the table and gently pulled off her sunglasses. The bruise around her left eye was fading from purple to yellow-green, but it was unmistakable. "Lily." My voice came out as a whisper. "What happened?" "I'm so clumsy, Mom. I walked into the bathroom door in the middle of the night. Stupid, right?" She laughed, but it was hollow. "Lily, look at me." She did. And in her eyes, I saw fear and shame and something that broke my heart. The desperate hope that I would believe her lie because the truth was too terrible to speak out loud. "Did Marcus do this to you?" "No. God no, Mom. I told you I walked into a door. Marcus would never. She trailed off, and I watched her retreat behind walls I didn't know she'd built. I should go. I just wanted to stop by. Let you know I'm okay. Lily, please. Talk to me. There's nothing to talk about. I'm fine. Everything's fine. She stood up, grabbed her purse. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. Always. She left, and I sat at my kitchen table for hours, staring at the tea she hadn't touched, knowing my daughter was in trouble and not knowing how to help her. The phone call that woke me at 2 a.m. came 3 months after that visit. 3 months of increasingly worried conversations where Lily insisted everything was fine while sounding more and more hollow. 3 months of sleepless nights where I lay awake, wondering if I should call someone, do something, force my way into her life even if it meant she'd push me away further. Mom, I went to the police, she sobbed into the phone. I finally did it. Where are you? I was already out of bed, pulling on clothes with one hand, holding the phone with the other. Are you safe? I'm in my car, parked at a gas station. Mom, it was so bad tonight. He came home angry about something at work, and I asked if he wanted dinner, and her voice broke. He threw me against the wall. He had his hands around my throat. I couldn't breathe. I thought he was going to kill me. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely button my jeans. Did you go to the hospital? Are you hurt? I went to the police station instead. I thought if I reported it right away while the marks were still visible, they'd have to do something. I showed them my neck, Mom. You can see his handprints. I showed them the texts where he threatened me. I told them everything, how it started with yelling, then pushing, then worse. How he monitors my phone, controls the money, won't let me see my friends. Okay, that's good. That's the right thing to do. But they didn't believe me. Her sobs were getting harder, making it difficult for her to breathe. The officer, he was so nice at first. He took my statement, took photos of my neck. But then Marcus showed up. He came to the police station? Someone called him. I don't know who. But he came in with his lawyer, some expensive guy in a suit. And suddenly everything changed. Marcus was so calm, so reasonable. He told them I was having a mental health crisis, that I'd been acting erratically, that he was worried about me. He said I hurt myself and was trying to blame him. That's insane. You have bruises shaped like handprints. His lawyer said they could be self-inflicted, or from consensual activities. He said it with this smirk, Mom, like it was funny. Like I was some kind of joke. She was breathing in gasps now. And then Marcus showed them texts I'd sent him earlier this week. Ones where I said I loved him, where I apologized for making him upset. He made it look like I was unstable, like I was making everything up. But the officer saw your injuries. He took photos. The officer talked to Marcus for 20 minutes. Then he came back to me and said that without witnesses or more substantial evidence, it was a he said, she said situation. He suggested I might benefit from marriage counseling. He told me that making false reports was a crime, and I should be careful about accusations that could ruin someone's life. I felt rage rise in my chest like a wave, hot and overwhelming. They sent you back to him? They didn't send me anywhere. They let me leave. But Mom, where am I supposed to go? Everything's in his name, the house, the cars, the bank accounts. I don't have any money. He made me quit my job 6 months ago. Said we didn't need my income, that I should focus on the house. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I'm trapped. And no one believes me. I believe you, I said fiercely. I believe every word. And you're not going back there. Give me the address of where you are. I'm coming to get you right now. Mom, if I leave, he'll what? Kill you? Because that's where this is heading, Lily. You said yourself you thought he was going to kill you tonight. Silence on the other end. Then quietly. Yeah. So give me the address. We'll figure everything else out. But first you need to be somewhere safe. She told me the location. A 24-hour gas station about 30 minutes from my apartment. I grabbed my keys, my phone, and my purse, and I drove faster than I've ever driven in my life. I found her sitting in her car in the far corner of the parking lot, trying to be invisible. When I pulled up next to her and she saw me, she broke down completely. I got out and opened her door, and she fell into my arms. "I've got you," I whispered, holding her while she shook. "You're safe now. I've got you." In the harsh fluorescent light of the gas station, I could see the full extent of what he'd done. Finger-shaped bruises on her throat, dark and terrible. A split lip. Bruises on her arms where he'd grabbed her. And in her eyes, something even worse than the physical injuries. A brokenness that made me want to scream. "Let's get you out of here," I said. "You're coming home with me." "What about my things?" "My clothes, my photos, everything's at the house." "We'll get them later. Right now, you need medical attention and safety. Everything else can wait." We drove to the emergency room. I stayed with her while the doctors examined her, photographed her injuries, documented everything. The ear doctor, a woman in her 30s with kind eyes, held Lily's hand and said, "I see this more often than I'd like. You did the right thing coming here. These injuries are serious." "I went to the police first," Lily said. "They didn't believe me." The doctor's jaw tightened. "Well, I believe you. And I'm documenting everything. These records can be used if you decide to press charges or file for a protective order." After the hospital, I took Lily back to my apartment. She was exhausted, moving like someone decades older than her 24 years. I set her up in her old room. I'd kept it exactly as she'd left it when she went to college, like some part of me always knew she might need to come home. She fell asleep almost immediately. I sat beside her bed like I used to when she was little, watching her breathe, making sure she was real and alive and here. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Tell Lily to come home. We need to talk. This is ridiculous. Marcus." Somehow he'd gotten my number. I typed back, "She's not coming back. Stay away from her." The response was immediate. "She's my wife. You have no right to interfere. Tell her if she doesn't come home by morning, there will be consequences." I blocked the number, but it didn't stop. He called from different numbers, his cell, his office, numbers I didn't recognize. Each time the messages got angrier, more threatening. "She's making a huge mistake. I'll make sure she doesn't get a penny in the divorce. Everyone will know what kind of person she really is. You're turning my wife against me. I could sue you for alienation of affection." I saved every text, every voicemail. Documentation. Evidence. The things the police should have cared about but didn't. The next morning, Lily woke up and found me at the kitchen table, surrounded by my laptop and notebooks, researching domestic violence laws, protective orders, divorce attorneys, resources for abuse victims. "Mom, what are you doing?" "I'm figuring out how we fight back." She sat down across from me, wrapped in the old bathrobe she'd had in high school. "The police already said there's nothing they can do. Then we find another way." "Lily, I'm a nurse. I've seen what happens when abuse escalates. It doesn't get better. It only gets worse. And I am not going to let that happen to you. You don't understand. Marcus has money, connections, lawyers. His father plays golf with the police chief. His mother is friends with half the judges in the county. I'm nobody. I'm just some girl from a poor family who married up. That's how they see me. You're not nobody. You're my daughter. And you're a survivor. And we are going to make sure justice happens, even if we have to fight for it ourselves." She looked at me with something I hadn't seen in months. "Hope? How?" "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But I'm going to figure it out." Over the next few days, we started building our case. I took Lily to a lawyer, a woman who specialized in domestic violence cases, who worked on sliding scale fees because she believed everyone deserved representation. Her name was Jennifer Walsh, and she'd survived an abusive marriage herself. The fact that the police didn't take this seriously is infuriating but not surprising, Jennifer told us in her small, cluttered office. The system fails victims all the time, especially when the abuser has money and status. But that doesn't mean we're helpless. She explained our options. Filing for a protective order through civil court, filing for divorce, potentially pursuing criminal charges through the district attorney's office if we could get them to take the case. The hospital records are good, Jennifer said, reviewing the documents. But we need more. Do you have any other evidence? Texts, emails, witnesses. Lily pulled out her phone. He monitors this, but I started screenshotting things and emailing them to a secret account he doesn't know about. I was too scared to do anything with them before, but I have them. She showed us months of messages. Marcus telling her she was worthless, stupid, lucky he put up with her. Marcus threatening to hurt her if she embarrassed him in front of his family. Marcus tracking her location and demanding to know why she'd been at the grocery store for 22 minutes when it should only take 15. This is excellent evidence, Jennifer said. Anything else? There's a neighbor, Lily said slowly. Mrs. Patterson next door. She's heard us fighting. She's even asked me a few times if everything was okay. But I always said yes because I was embarrassed. We need to talk to her, Jennifer said. A witness would be huge. But when we called Mrs. Patterson, her response was careful, guarded. I don't want to get involved in marital disputes. Marcus is always very nice to me. I'm sure whatever problems you two are having, you can work them out. Another door closed. Another person who chose not to see. Have you ever tried to tell the truth, tried to show people what was really happening, only to have them look away? To have them choose comfort over your safety? That's what we were facing. A wall of polite denial, of people who didn't want to believe that someone charming and successful could be a monster behind closed doors. What would you have done in my place? When the system fails, when the police don't believe, when witnesses won't speak up, how do you protect someone you love? Tell me in the comments. I really want to know. Because what I did next, some people might think I went too far. But I'd do it again in a heartbeat. It was the 5th night after Lily came home when I found her in the bathroom at 3 a.m., staring at a bottle of sleeping pills. She wasn't doing anything, just staring at them, holding the bottle in her hands. But the look on her face told me everything I needed to know about where her mind had gone. Lily. I said her name softly, not wanting to startle her. She looked up at me and her eyes were empty. I'm so tired, Mom. I'm just so tired of everything. I sat down on the bathroom floor next to her, took the bottle gently from her hands. I know, baby. I know. He's never going to let me go. Even if I divorce him, even if I get a protective order, he has too much power. He'll make my life hell. And nobody will believe me because he's Marcus Brooks, from the good family with the money and the connections. And I'm just me. You're not just anything. You're everything. I should have listened to you. When I first brought him home, I saw it in your face, you didn't trust him. But I was so in love, or at least I thought I was. I thought he saw me, valued me. I thought I'd finally found someone who wouldn't leave like Dad did. My heart broke. Oh honey, this is not your fault. None of it. Marcus fooled a lot of people, not just you. But what do we do now? The police won't help. Marcus is fighting the protective order. Jennifer says the hearing isn't for another 3 weeks. He knows where I am. He's been driving by the apartment at night. I've seen his car. That was news to me, and terrifying news at that. Why didn't you tell me? Because you already worry so much. Because you shouldn't have to protect your adult daughter from her husband. Because I feel like such a failure. I took her hands in mine. Lily Chun, you listen to me. You are not a failure. You are one of the strongest people I know. You survived months of abuse. You found the courage to leave. You're fighting back even though the system is stacked against you. That's not failure. That's heroism. I don't feel like a hero. I feel broken. Then let me be strong enough for both of us until you remember how strong you are. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and we sat there on the cold bathroom floor until the sun came up. That morning I made a decision. If the system wouldn't protect my daughter, I would. But I needed to be smart about it. I called in sick to work, something I rarely did, but this was more important than any shift. I spent the day making calls, researching, planning. I contacted a private investigator, a retired police detective named Frank Morrison who now worked independently. His fees were steep, but I had some savings and this was worth every penny. I need you to investigate Marcus Brooks, I told him over the phone. I need to know everything about him, where he goes, who he talks to, what he does when he thinks no one's watching. That's going to take time and money, Frank warned. And if he's as connected as you say, he might notice. I don't care if he notices. I need evidence that will make people see who he really is. What kind of evidence are you hoping for? Anything. Everything. There has to be something. Men who abuse their wives don't just do it to their wives. There have to be others, other women, other victims. Or business dealings that aren't quite legal. Or something. Anything that will make the police take this seriously. Frank agreed to take the case. While he worked on that, I focused on another angle: social media. Marcus was active online, carefully curated photos of his perfect life, his successful business, his beautiful home. In every photo he looked like the ideal man. Handsome, confident, successful. He had hundreds of friends, dozens of comments praising him on every post. But when I looked closer, I noticed something. The photos of him and Lily had stopped about 6 months ago. Before that, he'd posted them constantly. My beautiful wife, so lucky. Date night with my love. The change was subtle, but it was there. I created a fake social media account, used a stock photo for the profile, added some generic posts to make it look real. Then I started commenting on Marcus's photos, asking innocent questions. Your wife is beautiful. Why don't you post photos of her anymore? Other people started asking too. Marcus's responses were vague. We're keeping our personal life more private these days. But I noticed he started deleting some of the comments. Then I did something more direct. I posted on a local community forum. Does anyone know Marcus Brooks from Brooks Automotive? Looking for information about his character for a business partnership. The responses were mostly positive. He was well liked, apparently. But then I got a private message from someone named Ashley. I don't want this to be public, but you should know. Marcus and I dated 3 years ago, before he met his wife. He seemed great at first, but he got controlling and then violent. I broke up with him and he threatened me. I was too scared to report it. And I moved to another city to get away from him. If you're thinking about doing business with him, be careful. My heart raced. Another victim. Evidence that this was a pattern, not a one-time thing. Would you be willing to talk to a lawyer about this? I messaged back. Or make a statement to the police? I don't know. It was 3 years ago. I didn't document anything. And like I said, he threatened me. I'm still scared of him. My daughter is his wife. He's done the same thing to her. We need help proving he's dangerous. There was a long pause. Then, your daughter married him? Oh God, I'm so sorry. Let me think about it. I'll message you back. I took a screenshot of the conversation, sent it to Jennifer immediately. This was exactly what we needed, evidence that Marcus had a history of violence. Over the next week, Frank, the private investigator, came back with information that made everything click into place. Marcus wasn't just abusive. He was reckless. He had a DUI that his family's lawyers had somehow gotten expunged from his record. He had multiple complaints filed against his business for fraud, customers claiming he'd overcharged them or done unnecessary repairs. He had a gambling problem that he'd hidden from everyone, including Lily, and he was in debt to some very dangerous people. This guy's whole life is a house of cards, Frank told me. The perfect exterior is hiding a lot of rot. And if we pull the right thread, the whole thing will unravel. What's the right thread? I asked. His business. I've found evidence of insurance fraud. He's been filing false claims, pocketing the money. It's a federal crime. If we can get this to the right people, he won't be able to lawyer his way out of it. How do we get it to the right people? Leave that to me. I still have contacts in law enforcement, people who care more about justice than politics. While Frank worked his contacts, I focused on building our public case. Jennifer had filed for the protective order, and the hearing was coming up. We needed to make sure the judge would take us seriously. I contacted a local domestic violence organization called Safe Harbor. They assigned us an advocate named Maria, a survivor herself who understood exactly what we were facing. The system is broken, Maria told us frankly at our first meeting. Judges see dozens of these cases a week, and they become desensitized. Abusers are often charming in court, and victims are often emotional, which can make them seem less credible. We need to prepare Lily to testify in a way that will cut through the judge's fatigue and bias. She spent hours with Lily, teaching her how to tell her story clearly and calmly, how to respond to Marcus's lawyer's attacks, how to stay composed even when she wanted to fall apart. You're not weak for crying, Maria said. But the judge needs to see your strength more than your pain. Show them you're a survivor, not a victim. Meanwhile, I reached back out to Ashley, Marcus's ex-girlfriend. After a week of thinking it over, she agreed to provide a statement to Jennifer. I don't want to testify in person, Ashley said. But I'll put everything in writing and swear to it. Maybe if it helps your daughter get away from him, my experience will have meant something. Her statement was damning. She described the same pattern of behavior Lily had experienced. The initial charm, the gradual isolation from friends and family, the controlling behavior, the escalation to violence. She described an incident where Marcus had shoved her down a flight of stairs, and then convinced her it was an accident. She described his threats when she tried to leave. Reading this is like reading my own story, Lily said when Jennifer showed her Ashley's statement. Every detail. It's exactly what he did to me. That's because abusers follow patterns, Jennifer explained. And this pattern is going to help us prove that you're telling the truth. The protective order hearing arrived. Marcus showed up in an expensive suit, flanked by his lawyer and his father. They looked confident, comfortable, like they owned the courthouse. Lily wore a simple dress, no jewelry, her hair pulled back. She looked small next to them, but when she took the stand to testify, something shifted. This wasn't the broken girl I'd found crying at a gas station. This was my daughter finding her voice. She spoke clearly and calmly, describing what Marcus had done. She showed the judge photos of her injuries from the hospital. She presented the text messages, the emails, the documented threats. And then Jennifer presented Ashley's statement. Marcus's lawyer tried to object, tried to argue that it was irrelevant, but the judge allowed it. Mr. Brooks, the judge said, looking at Marcus over her reading glasses, I'm seeing a troubling pattern here. Two women, similar stories, similar injuries. How do you explain this? Marcus opened his mouth, but his usual charm seemed to fail him. Your Honor, I don't know who this Ashley person is. She's clearly been put up to this by my mother-in-law, who has never liked me. Actually, Jennifer interjected, Miss Ashley Martinez dated Mr. Brooks 3 years ago, well before he met Lily Chun. There's no connection between her and Mrs. Chun beyond Mr. Brooks himself. The judge reviewed the documents again, then looked at Marcus with something I hadn't seen from anyone in authority yet. Disbelief in his performance. I'm granting the protective order, she said. Mr. Brooks, you are to stay at least 500 feet away from Miss Chun at all times. No contact, direct or indirect. If you violate this order, you will be arrested immediately. Marcus's face went red. This is ridiculous. She's my wife. Not for much longer, based on the divorce petition that's been filed, the judge said coolly. Next case. We walked out of that courthouse and Lily grabbed my hand. "We won," she whispered like she couldn't believe it. "We won one battle," I corrected. "The war isn't over yet." I was right. 2 days later, Marcus started a campaign of harassment through proxies. His mother called me at work, yelling about how I was destroying her son's life. His father showed up at my apartment building trying to talk to Lily. Friends of Marcus started posting online about what a crazy person Lily was, how she was lying about everything for money. But for every attack, we documented it. Every call, every message, every post, we saved it all. And slowly, people started seeing through Marcus's facade. The turning point came when Frank delivered on his promise. He'd taken the evidence of Marcus's insurance fraud to a federal investigator, someone who couldn't be influenced by the Brooks family's local connections. Within a week, federal agents showed up at Brooks Automotive with a warrant. They seized records, computers, everything. And what they found was worse than just insurance fraud. Marcus had been running a sophisticated scheme for years, filing false claims, inflating repair costs, pocketing the difference. He'd stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars from insurance companies. When news of the federal investigation broke, Marcus's father tried to distance himself, claiming he knew nothing about what Marcus had been doing. The family's lawyers scrambled to contain the damage. And suddenly, people who defended Marcus, who'd called Lily a liar, started backing away. His friends stopped commenting supportive things on his posts. His business associates began severing ties. The facade was crumbling, and everyone could see the rot underneath. "Mom," Lily said one evening watching the news coverage of the investigation, "is this really happening?" "Yes, honey. It's really happening. I spent so long thinking no one would ever believe me. That he was untouchable. No one's untouchable. Sometimes it just takes time to find the cracks." The divorce proceedings accelerated after the criminal investigation became public. Marcus's lawyer advised him to settle quickly and quietly. Fighting Lily in court would only draw more attention to his legal troubles. Jennifer negotiated hard. In the end, Lily got the settlement she deserved. A fair division of assets, including money from the house they'd bought together, and an agreement that Marcus would pay her legal fees and restitution for the financial control and abuse. But more than the money, Lily got her freedom, her safety, her life back. The criminal trial happened 6 months after everything started. By then, Marcus had been formally charged with multiple counts of wire fraud, insurance fraud, and related offenses. The evidence was overwhelming: years of falsified documents, fake claims, stolen money. His lawyers tried to make deals, but the prosecutors weren't interested. They wanted to make an example of someone who'd used wealth and connections to commit crimes, while hiding behind a respectable facade. Lily and I sat in the courtroom on the day of sentencing. We didn't have to be there. The criminal case wasn't directly related to the abuse, though the prosecutor had mentioned it in the sentencing memorandum as evidence of Marcus's character. But Lily wanted to be there. She needed to see it. "I need to watch him face consequences," she told me the night before. "For so long I believed he was invincible. I need to see that he's not." Marcus sat at the defendant's table in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary, but he looked smaller somehow, diminished. His father sat in the gallery behind him, stone-faced. His mother wasn't there. She'd apparently disowned him after the full extent of his crimes came to light. The prosecutor stood and addressed the judge, a stern man in his 60s named Judge Hawthorne. "Your Honor, the defendant's crimes were not crimes of desperation or necessity. He came from wealth. He had every advantage. Instead, he chose to steal, to defraud, to abuse the trust of customers and insurance companies alike. And when his wife tried to report his abuse, he used his resources to manipulate the system, to make her look like the unreliable one." Marcus's lawyer objected. "Your Honor, my client has not been charged with domestic violence. His personal life should not be a factor in sentencing for financial crimes." "Overruled," Judge Hawthorne said. "Character is always relevant in sentencing." "Continue, counselor." The prosecutor went on. The defendant showed no remorse. He's fought these charges every step of the way, despite overwhelming evidence. He's blamed his employees, blamed his business partners, blamed his wife, everyone but himself. That pattern of manipulation and deflection shows a man who is dangerous not just to the financial system, but to everyone around him. Then it was time for victim impact statements. Several of Marcus's customers spoke about how his fraud had hurt them financially and emotionally. They trusted him, and he'd betrayed that trust. And then unexpectedly, Ashley took the stand. I hadn't known she was coming. She'd moved back to town specifically for this, she told me later. She stood at the microphone, her voice shaking but determined. I dated Marcus Brooks 3 years ago. I was young and I thought he was wonderful. Until he wasn't. She took a deep breath. He isolated me from my friends. He controlled where I went and who I talked to. And when I tried to leave, he hurt me. He pushed me downstairs and then convinced me it was my fault. He threatened me, said if I told anyone, he'd ruin my life. I was so scared I moved to another city. She looked directly at Marcus. I stayed silent because I was afraid. But when I heard what you did to your wife, to Lily, I realized my silence might have put her in danger. If I'd spoken up 3 years ago, maybe she never would have married you. Maybe she would have been spared all that pain. So I'm speaking up now, even though I'm terrified. Because you need to face what you've done. All of it. I saw tears streaming down Lily's face. I reached over and squeezed her hand. Then the prosecutor called Lily to the stand. Jennifer had advised against it. There was no legal requirement for her to speak, and reliving everything in front of Marcus could be traumatizing. But Lily had insisted. She walked to the microphone with her head high. She'd come so far from that broken girl crying at a gas station 6 months ago. She looked at Marcus and her voice was steady. Marcus, you made me believe I was worthless. You told me every day that I was lucky you stayed with me, that no one else would want me. You controlled every aspect of my life, what I wore, where I went, who I talked to. You isolated me from my family and friends, made me quit my job, made me completely dependent on you. Marcus stared straight ahead, refusing to meet her eyes. And when you hurt me, you convinced me it was my fault. That I'd provoked you. That if I just tried harder to be a better wife, you'd stop. But you never stopped. It only got worse. Her voice wavered but didn't break. The night I finally left, you had your hands around my throat. I looked in your eyes and I saw nothing. No love, no remorse, just rage. I genuinely thought I was going to die. She paused, took a breath. I went to the police that night, terrified and hurt, and they sent me away. They believed you instead of me because you were calm and I was hysterical. Because you had money and lawyers and connections. Because abusers like you are very good at being charming when they need to be. Now she looked directly at him, and he couldn't avoid her gaze. But I survived. With my mother's help, I got away from you. I found people who believed me. I found proof that I wasn't the first woman you'd hurt. And now everyone knows what you really are. You stole money from insurance companies and customers, and you're here to face consequences for that. But you also stole years of my life, my sense of safety, my ability to trust. You tried to steal my voice. And I want this court to know that what you did to me, to Ashley, to other women, that matters. That's who you are when no one is watching. That's the real Marcus Brooks. She stepped down, walked back to her seat beside me. Her hands were shaking, but her head was still high. Judge Hawthorne reviewed his notes for what felt like an eternity. Then he looked at Marcus. Mr. Brooks, please rise. Marcus and his lawyer stood. I've been a judge for 23 years, Judge Hawthorne said. I've seen many kinds of criminals. Some are desperate people who make terrible choices out of need. Some are troubled people who need help more than punishment. And some are predators who use every advantage they have to take from others, to hurt others, to manipulate systems that should protect the vulnerable. He paused. You, Mr. Brooks, are a predator. You committed fraud not out of necessity but out of greed and entitlement. And the testimony I've heard today about your treatment of women shows a pattern of manipulation and control that is deeply disturbing. While I can only sentence you for the crimes you've been convicted of, I can consider your character and the likelihood of rehabilitation. And frankly, I see none. Marcus's lawyer started to speak, but the judge held up his hand. The prosecution has recommended 7 to 10 years. Given the extent of your crimes, your lack of remorse, and the pattern of harmful behavior you've demonstrated, I'm sentencing you to the maximum. 10 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. You'll also pay full restitution to all victims of your fraud, plus fines and penalties. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Marcus's face went white. His father dropped his head into his hands. Additionally, the judge continued, I'm recommending that the district attorney's office review the domestic violence allegations against you. While you haven't been charged criminally for those actions, the testimony I've heard today suggests there may be grounds for charges. He banged his gavel. This court is adjourned. As they led Marcus away in handcuffs, he finally looked at Lily. Really looked at her. And for a moment I saw something in his face. Maybe recognition of what he'd lost, maybe just anger that he'd finally faced consequences. But Lily didn't look away. She met his gaze with strength I'd once worried he'd broken forever. We walked out of that courthouse into sunshine. Lily stopped on the steps, closed her eyes, tilted her face toward the sun. It's over, she whispered. Yes, baby. It's over. 10 years. 10 years where he can't hurt you or anyone else. She turned to me and I saw tears streaming down her face, but they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of relief, of release, of finally being free. I can breathe, Mom. For the first time in years, I can actually breathe. I pulled her into my arms and held her while she cried. Ashley came over and joined us, and the 3 of us stood there. 3 women who'd survived the same man's violence, who'd found the courage to speak up, who'd helped bring him to justice. Thank you, Lily said to Ashley. If you hadn't come forward, if you hadn't told your story, you would have done the same for me, Ashley said. That's what we do. We help each other survive. The months after the sentencing were about rebuilding. Lily moved back in with me temporarily while she figured out her next steps. She started therapy, real intensive therapy with a specialist in trauma recovery. She went 3 times a week at first, working through everything Marcus had done to her and everything she'd lost. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, she told me one evening. We were making dinner together, something we'd done throughout her childhood. Like he's going to somehow get out, or find a way to hurt me from prison. He can't, I reminded her. The protective order is permanent. He's not allowed to contact you in any way. And if he tries, it's a separate crime. I know that intellectually. But emotionally, I'm still afraid. That's normal, honey. Fear doesn't disappear overnight. But every day you're safe, every day he has no power over you, that fear will get smaller. She was quiet for a moment, chopping vegetables. Then, Mom, I never thanked you properly. For what? For believing me when no one else did. For fighting for me when I was too broken to fight for myself. For not giving up even when it seemed hopeless. I set down my knife and turned to her. Lily, you're my daughter. I would move heaven and earth for you. Always. I know some mothers would have told me to go back, to try to make it work, that marriage is forever. Or they would have blamed me for not leaving sooner. Then those mothers don't understand what abuse does to people. You survived, Lily. That's what matters. She hugged me, and I felt how much stronger she was than even a month ago. The brokenness was healing. Slowly but steadily. Lily got a job at Safe Harbor, the domestic violence organization that had helped us. She started as an administrative assistant, but Maria, the advocate who'd worked with us, saw something in her. You have a gift, Maria told her. You understand what victims are going through because you've been there. Have you thought about becoming an advocate yourself? Lily hadn't. But as she worked at Safe Harbor, answering crisis calls, helping women find emergency shelter, connecting them with resources, she realized this was what she was meant to do. The social work degree she'd earned, the empathy she'd always had, the strength she'd developed through surviving Marcus, it all came together. She went back to school part-time, got certified as a domestic violence counselor. A year after the trial, she was leading support groups, helping other women navigate the legal system, being the person for them that we'd wished existed when she first went to the police. I'm not grateful for what Marcus did to me, she told me. I'll never be grateful for that. But I can be grateful for what I've become because of surviving it. As for me, I went back to my nursing job with a new appreciation for the privilege of helping people in their most vulnerable moments. I also started volunteering with Safe Harbor, using my medical knowledge to help train advocates on documenting injuries and understanding the physical effects of abuse. I watched Lily bloom back into herself, not the naive girl who'd fallen for Marcus's charm, but a woman who knew her strength, who'd faced the worst and survived. She started dating again eventually, though cautiously. She made new friends, reconnected with old ones she'd lost touch with during her marriage. She moved into her own apartment, a bright one-bedroom with big windows and plants everywhere. I helped her move in, and as we unpacked boxes I found myself crying. "What's wrong, Mom?" she asked. "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. I'm so proud of you. Of who you've become. I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have. But I'm glad you didn't have to." 2 years after the trial, the district attorney's office did review the domestic violence allegations against Marcus. With Ashley's testimony, Lily's hospital records, and everything we documented, they filed charges. Marcus was prosecuted while still in federal prison, and he received an additional sentence to be served consecutively. Ashley and Lily both testified again. This time it was easier. They'd healed enough that telling their stories didn't shatter them. They stood in that courtroom as survivors, not victims, and their words carried weight. "I was silent once," Ashley said in her testimony. "I won't be silent anymore. And I hope that every woman watching this, every woman who's scared to come forward, I hope they see that it's possible to survive, to speak up, to be believed." After that trial, something unexpected happened. Other women came forward. Women Marcus had dated in high school and college, women he'd worked with, women who'd experienced his controlling behavior or his violence but had never reported it. The local news did a story about the pattern, about how one man had hurt so many people over so many years. The police chief, the one whose golf buddy was Marcus's father, gave a statement about how they were reviewing their procedures for handling domestic violence cases and taking these allegations seriously. It was too little, too late for Lily, but maybe it would help the next woman who walked into that police station terrified and hurt. Safe Harbor started a new program called Lily's Law, not an actual law, but a protocol for helping domestic violence victims navigate the legal system when police don't take their reports seriously. Lily helped develop it, drawing on everything we'd learned. "If we can help even one woman get justice," she said at the program launch, "then all of this will have meant something." 3 years after that phone call at 2 a.m., I sat in the audience at Safe Harbor's annual fundraiser. Lily was giving a speech about her experience, about the importance of believing survivors, about the work still left to do. "My mother saved my life," she said, and I felt tears spring to my eyes. "When the system failed me, when the police didn't believe me, when I had nowhere else to turn, she believed me. She fought for me. She didn't stop until justice was served." After the speech, people came up to thank her, to share their own stories, to ask for advice. I watched her handle each conversation with grace and compassion, and I marveled at the woman she'd become. On the drive home, Lily was quiet. Finally, she said, "Mom, do you ever regret it?" Everything we went through to get justice? How hard we had to fight. Not for a second, I said immediately. Do you? No. But sometimes I think about what my life would look like if I'd just stayed quiet. If I'd gone back to him, tried to make it work like the police suggested. You'd be dead, I said bluntly. Maybe not that first year, maybe not the second. But eventually, that's where it was heading. I know. She was quiet for another moment. Then, I got an email from a woman last week. Her husband is abusing her. The police won't help. She's terrified. She asked me what to do. What did you tell her? I told her to document everything. To find one person who believes her and hold on to them. To remember that she's not crazy, she's not overreacting, and she deserves safety and respect. And I told her that getting out is possible, even when it feels impossible. That's good advice. It's what you told me. I reached over and squeezed her hand. I learned from the best teacher, my daughter, who taught me what real courage looks like. It's been 5 years now since that night Lily called me from a gas station, broken and desperate, telling me the police didn't believe her. 5 years since we started fighting for justice in a system that seemed designed to protect her abuser instead of her. People ask me sometimes if I'm angry that we had to fight so hard, that the police didn't believe Lily the first time, that we had to find evidence of his crimes ourselves because the system failed us. And yes, I'm angry. I'm furious that any woman has to prove her abuse to that degree before she's taken seriously. I'm outraged that abusers with money and connections can manipulate the system so easily. But I'm also hopeful. Because we didn't give up. We found another way. We built our case piece by piece, we found allies in unexpected places. And we held Marcus accountable for what he'd done. And now Lily uses that experience to help other women do the same thing. She runs Safe Harbor's legal advocacy program now. She's helped dozens of women navigate protective order hearings, divorce proceedings, and criminal prosecutions. She's testified before the state legislature about needed reforms to how police handle domestic violence cases. She's made a real difference. And Marcus? He's still in prison. He'll be there for several more years. And when he gets out, he'll have to register as part of his supervised release, he'll have the protective order following him for life, and he'll have a criminal record that will prevent him from ever having that kind of power over someone again. So here's what I want you to take from my story. The system is broken. Police don't always believe victims. Courts don't always deliver justice on the first try. Abusers with resources can manipulate and intimidate, and make you feel like you're crazy for calling out their behavior. But that doesn't mean you're helpless. It doesn't mean justice is impossible. Document everything. Find people who believe you. Don't give up, even when it feels like every door is closing. Look for the cracks in your abuser's facade because they're there. People who lie about one thing usually lie about many things. People who hurt you have usually hurt others. And most importantly, you are not alone. There are people who will believe you, who will fight for you, who will help you survive and eventually thrive. If you're in an abusive situation right now, please reach out to a domestic violence hotline. In the U.S., the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. They have advocates available 24/7 who can help you safety plan and find resources. You deserve safety. You deserve respect. You deserve to live without fear. To everyone else watching, if someone you love tells you they're being abused, believe them. Even if the abuser seems nice. Even if they have a good reputation. Even if the victim seems unsure or returns to the abuser or doesn't act how you think they should act. Believe them. Support them. Be patient with them. And if you see signs that someone might be experiencing abuse, isolation from friends and family, changes in behavior, unexplained injuries, excessive monitoring of their phone or activities, say something. Ask if they're okay. Let them know you're there if they need help. You might be the lifeline that saves them. So tell me, Have you or someone you love experienced anything like this? How did you handle it? What advice would you give to someone currently in this situation? Share in the comments. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to find the courage to leave, to fight back, to survive. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think or feel or understand domestic violence differently, please like this video and share it. You never know who in your life might be silently struggling and needs to see that survival and justice are possible. Subscribe for more true stories about resilience, justice, and finding your strength when the system fails you. We share stories every week about people who refused to stay victims, who fought back against injustice, who found their power even in the darkest circumstances. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for caring about this issue. And if you're going through something similar right now, please remember, you are stronger than you know. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And there are people who will believe you. You don't have to face this alone.